Hey guys, I'm back at it today with another deck profile for you all, and I hope you guys will all enjoy it. And that deck today is Earth Machine. This deck has a lot of potential, especially with the Therions coming out. Regulus is going to make this deck insane, so I'd suggest getting the core before everything shoots up in price, and this might go to tier like 1.5, maybe even tier 1, because the combos that it has right now are very strong, even though you do a lot of your combo in order to end on a like double-headed Anger Knuckle plus a Super Dora. You end off usually with 7 cards in hand, and most of them could be hand traps if you wanted to, or it could be like crazy interruption like Solemns, it could be droplets, but this deck has a lot of potential in the future. I've played it quite a bit with my friends and at locals, and I've played against like Based, I played against Sword Soul, I played against Flunder, and oftentimes this deck just takes them by storm. They don't really know what to do. The combos with like regards to like Ruin Force and Machina redeployment are kind of nuts. You have Fortress to help you like get your combos off if they interrupt you to like throw a nib or something. You have Citadel, which is a board wipe every turn. Then you have your whole Infinitrack line, which basically gets your Earth Machine combo set up. And then you have Trains for extension. And who doesn't like Trains? You just summon out a 3k beat stick, and if you have skill drain on the field, just start whacking them for game. But I hope you guys all enjoy, and let's get right into the deck profile. So to start off, we're going to be getting into our Machina package. The Machina package isn't really in order right now, I just have it all with regards to like it being Machina. So we're going to first start off with the Machina monsters. The Machina monsters that we're going to be running is we're going to be running one Unclass Spare, and we're going to be running the triple gear frame. These cards are basically one of your main starters in the deck. You'll usually normal summon Gear Frame and add Unclass Spare to special the Unclass Spare from your hand, and then you would dump like a Ruin Force or a Fortress off of that. And you could also add other cards, like let's say like if you want to have Citadel in rotation and you have like a Machina redeployment also, you can normal the Gear Frame, dump the Citadel off of your Machina redeployment that you added off Gear Frame, and then you would be able to add the Unclass Spare to get an extra dump and a special. And then you could add something like an Overdrive. So that's going to be like your main starters right here. Then in addition, you're going to be running the one Citadel, you're going to be running the one Ruin Force, the one Fortress, and my personal tech choice is a Cruncher. Cruncher's pretty good right now. We used to, as Earth Machine players, the original build was 3 Cruncher, 3 Brutal Dozer, 3 Harvester, and 3 Heavy Forwards. And that was our main starter so that we could always see a Brutal Dozer, but you don't have to anymore since with Gear Frame, you can basically normal summon Gear Frame, add Unclass Spare, special Unclass Spare, dump a Fortress or the Ruin Force or Citadel, one of these 3, depending upon the situation that you're in, and then you can XZ into a Gear Gigant, and Gear Gigant can give you a Harvester. And then in addition to that, if you have one Train, you can then special the Train, make Platinum Gadget, and then be able to special summon out the Harvester and get your Brutal Dozer and go into your Earth Machine plays. Otherwise, if you have a Train in hand, or if you have a Train in hand, or if you already have the Brutal Dozer, you don't have to XZ using these 2 to be able to make the Gear Gigant, and you can just basically go into Brutal Dozer plays. That's why you play 3 Heavy Forwards, and I'm going to show you that package in a minute. So these are going to be your Machina monsters. You're going to have the 3 Machina Gear Frame, the 1 Unclasp, you're going to have the 1 Metal Cruncher, I'll spread it out one last time. So you have the 1 Metal Cruncher, 1 Fortress, 1 Ruin Force, 1 Citadel, then you have the 3 Gear Frames and the 1 Unclasp, and I mean it's a pretty good ratio. I like having Metal Cruncher also in the deck. I only dropped it to 1 because you don't really need it anymore, and you could use it to special summon off of your Machina Overdrive. And what you can also do is use a Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede to be able to bring this back, modulate the level to 9 for both of them, and then you would be able to make a really easy Earth Slicer, so that's another option that you could do, and that's why I run it. Also, you can just normal summon it if you don't have anything else, and it's not really a brick. What you could do is reveal 2 Harvesters and 1 Brutal Dozer, and if you have the extension like a Train, then you can go into Platinum Gadget and special the Harvester, or if you get the Brutal Dozer, then you can just, you're good, because you can just Brutal Dozer tribute that. So those are our Machina monsters. we're going to be running the triple Machina Overdrive, which is probably the best trap. It's the best trap in the deck. It basically allows you to go straight into your Citadel or your Cruncher or your Fortress, and then by popping one of your monsters, if you have a Super Dora that's ineffective, it doesn't pop it, and then it still special summons it, which is pretty strong. And then also it reshuffles 3 monsters that are banished, well, 3 machines that are banished and or in your graveyard to draw 1, which is really good because you can basically recycle your whole Infinitrack combo 3 times at least to be able to just grind through your opponent. In addition to those 3, we're also running triple Machina redeployment, which is basically the Rota for the deck. It basically allows you to get the gear frame if you need it. You can, by dumping any card, so you can add 2 Machina monsters if you dump any card, and if you dump a Machina card, you can add 2 Machina, 2 Machina cards. So if you dump a Fortress, you can add Overdrive and Gear Frame. But if you dump something like a Heavy Forward, then you would only be able to add like Gear Frame and another monster, or just any 2 of these monsters. Usually I would add Gear Frame and probably Fortress for like extension. So yeah, this is probably the best package in the deck. It's very consistent. You have basically 6 searchers just within the Machina set. So you have the 3 Gear Frame and the 3 redeployment, which are basically your starters. So now we're going to move off into our Infinitrack line. First off, we're going to start off with the Infinitrack monsters. We're going to be running Double Harvester. Unfortunately, this card got a bit expensive because people are now talking about Earthbox, or Earth Machine, whatever you want to call it, and it shot up a little bit. I mean, you don't have to play 2 copies. I personally think this is the most optimal number, so if you wanted to pick up like 2 Ultra Harvesters, I think right now they're going for about 8. So this probably is going to be like one of the more expensive cards in the deck. Everything else is relatively cheap. Then we're going to be running 1 Trencher, we're going to be running 1 Brutal Dozer, 1 Tunneler, and then we're going to be running the 1 Anchor Drill. So my logic is if you have 2 Harvester and 1 Brutal Dozer, this is basically like you have 3 starters right here. 2 that are normal summon requirements, and 1 that you just hope to see off your draw and then be able to get something that is normal summonable onto the field. It's pretty strong. In addition to these monster lineup, we're also running the 3 Heavy Forward, which is basically either 3 more copies of your Harvester or 3 more copies of your Brutal Dozer. So you're basically playing 4 Brutal Dozer in the deck and 5 Harvesters, which is more than enough. So including your Machina stuff, you're basically running with the triple Machina redeployment, and you're running the triple Gear Frame. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're running 12 starters, which is actually really optimal. Most decks want to see the 12 starters. And if you brick in your hand, but you have like an Anchor Drill can summon any of like your Earth Machines from your hand. So that helps on brick. That's why I'm running the 1. And then you need the 1 Tunneler, and you need the 1 Tunneler, and you need the 1 Trencher for your combos. But Brutal Dozer is your main combo piece, and everything else is kind of just to get into it. But you only need 1 now because there's so many ways to search it that isn't Machina Metal Cruncher. So that ends off the Infinitrack lineup. Next, we're going to be moving into the trains. And the trains are probably one of my favorite parts of the deck. I like doing just big train OTK. It's pretty fun at times. So we're going to be running 1 Super Express. We're going to be running 1 Dare Crane. We're going to be running 1 Night Express Knight. We're going to be running 1 Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede. And then we're going to be running double Revolving Switchyard. Most lists that I've seen, or I've talked with a few friends about Earth Machine, like they don't run the Flying Pegasus Railroad, but personally I think it's one of the better grind tools in the deck. Night Express is one of the worst cards that you can have, but it's a starter at least, so if you open like a Night Express plus a Brutal Dozer, it's full combo. The only issue is it eats up your normal summon. It doesn't really get you any advantage. But the reason we have to run it is because off of Revolving Switchyard. So if you open like Revolving Switchyard plus a Brutal Dozer, then you can basically just activate Revolving Switchyard, toss a card, get the Night Express, normal summon the Night Express, and then Brutal Dozer combo. It helps you get out of bricks. It's not good, but it's kind of worth it in my opinion. The Flying Pegasus you really want to run because of the fact that Revolving Switchyard, when you summon out a level 10 Earth Machine, it can basically bring out either the Flying Pegasus, or it can bring out the Anchor Drill from your deck and make it level 10, and then their effects will go off to summon out whatever it is. So if you want to summon something from the hand, you activate the Anchor Drill. If you want something from your graveyard, then you bring out the Flying Pegasus, Railroad Stampede. That's why I play the one of it. You can also shuffle it back into the deck with the Machina Overdrive, which is pretty useful to reset your grind. So most of the time, decks just can't outgrind this. The Revolving Switch Art just gives you so much advantage throughout the game that they won't be able to stop you. And then, of course, we're playing the Super Express and the Heavy Freight Train. Basically, we're playing 4 copies of it with the 2 Revolving Switchyard and the 1 Express and the Dare Crane. So basically, it's like 3 copies of each, which is pretty useful. You really need it for your combos, just to put it out there. I'll show you some combo lines later, hopefully, and I hope you will enjoy my feedback on it. But yeah, this is my train lineup. Other than the trains, we basically run one more, it's a brick in the deck. You run the 1 Gearbox. Gearbox kind of stinks right now, in my opinion. You have to run it because you're running the Ballista in the extra deck, and this can add Tunneler throughout your combos. But if you open Tunneler, or if you open your Tunneler, you don't need to go through the line for Gearbox. I mean, you can also add Trencher, I believe, but I just never really... Like, if I open the Tunneler, I'll never go into the Ancient Gear line, just go straight for Double-Headed Anger Knuckle. Other than that, I'm running... These are the last main cards in the main deck that are, like, train-based, which is the Triple Urgent Schedule. Urgent Schedule is actually very good right now. Going second, this deck has crazy, like, potential to pop off. Urgent Schedule basically makes this deck one of the better going second decks to this format. What you can do is basically special summon a level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense position and negate their effects, and also a level 4 or lower. So you can basically get your combo started if you have anything in hand. You can summon out trains. Unfortunately, they go to defense, so you can't attack with them, but it helps you start to get into, like, you get your resources out. In addition, what you can also do is if this set card on your field was sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 10 Earth Machine from your deck to your hand. So this is basically another searcher for, like, Citadel, or you can search your trains. Oftentimes what you'll do is you can set that card, and if you can't get over a specific monster because it's too big, what you'll do is summon out the Ancient Gear Ballista. What you can do is with Ballista, you can target the Urgent Schedule that's set, and then when face-up monster your opponent controls, you destroy this card, and then you can change that monster's attack and defense to 0 until the end of the turn, which causes your Urgent Schedule to go off to add a train, which then you can special the train, and you can probably beat over their monster, which is because it's at 0 attack. So if you add a Dare Crane, you can special the Dare Crane if you get another summon off of an Earth Machine, and then just beat over them, even though it's only 1400. So it's very, very good in my opinion right now. But yeah, that covers all the train main deck and all like the Infinitrack and the Machina main deck. Now we get off into the last 9 slots of the deck. I'm playing a 42 card deck, which is pretty consistent. I don't really brick that much, but the last cards that we're going to be playing is we're going to be playing a triple Infinite Impermanence. We're going to be playing triple Ash Blossom, and we're going to be playing triple Ghost Ogre. I have conflicting opinions on this. I love having the hand trap lineups because it allows us to basically be able to go... If we go second, we're not kind of stuck in a place where we have to break their boards. Because Based, unfortunately, is very, very difficult to get over right now because they put out a Barone. They Scythe Lock you so you can't go into any of your extra deck. You have to deal with a DPE. You can't send any card from your deck to the graveyard or from your hand to the graveyard because they get banished because of the Herald. So I like being able just to have the interruption for them. And most of the time, like, the reason that I play triple Infinite Impermanence is because Infinite Impermanence can hit, like, Hulk if they don't have their, what is it called? The Adventurer line. If they don't have Griffin Rider out, then you can Imperm the Hulk, or you can Ash the Hulk, which is very good and can usually stop their combos unless they have, like, some way to extend, which the deck usually does, but it kind of helps slow them down. These are very, like, standard to say the least. The Ghost Ogre is specifically for the Adventure engine. Ghost Ogre is really nuts because you can use it off you can basically Ghost Ogre their Fateful Adventure and they can't get the Griffin Rider, which basically makes them waste some cards. And it's very strong in this format. It also stops other decks. I guess, like, you could say it stops Plunder Patrol because you can, like, when they activate the field spell to basically go into, like, get a plunder card, or if they activate Blackbeard, you can Ghost Ogre it if you really wanted to. But I think this is a pretty good standard hand trap lineup. I know this can be a little bit expensive. Ashes right now I think are like 30 bucks. Ghost Ogres are cheap. I would definitely say use the Ghost Ogres, and the Imperms aren't too expensive because of those structure deck reprint. But if you don't have the Ashes, I would suggest throwing in something like Effect Veilers also. Effect Veiler is pretty good because it's not a once per turn. And if you draw multiple Effect Veilers, you can use multiple of them in a turn. But yeah, this is my hand trap lineup, and usually when you end your combo, you end off with like 6 or 7 cards in hand because you've already drawn 3 cards off of a, well, you drew quite a bit. Your Tunnler basically allows you to draw 2 cards and be able to cycle through your hand quite a bit. And then usually you'll end off with maybe 1 or 2 hand traps, which is usually enough to stop your opponent if you're ending off with like a Super Dora and a double-headed Anger Knuckle, for example. But yeah, that's the main deck. I'll show you some other considerations that you can take out these hand traps for in a minute, but I'll first show you my extra. So to start off with the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with, let me pull it out. We're going to start off with our links. We're going to be running triple Infinitrack Goliath. You need 3 of them because you cycle through all 3 in your combo to shuffle them back into the deck by using the Tumbler to get some draws. Very good. It's consistent. It can also stack itself on top of Zeus, and make it basically indestructible, so it can't be destroyed by card effects. So they're not going to be able to get over the Zeus by just popping it with a card effect, which is pretty strong. We then run the 1 Ancient Gear Ballista because this is our combo piece to allow us to go into our gearbox. We run the 1 Cleavefort Genius because Genius allows us to add a level 5 or higher machine monster from our deck to our hand when we use Urgent Schedule underneath it. Also, basically it's unaffected by spell and trap cards and the activated effects of other link monsters, which is pretty strong. So like if they're playing a deck that can't, it's 1800, so I guess if you're playing against a deck that like just can't beat over 1800 and uses all spells and traps, like, I don't know, like Trap Tricks, this basically gets over Trap Tricks. Then you're running 1 double-headed Anger Knuckle. This card is probably one of the most important combo pieces because you usually end off on it. I'm only running 1. Some people would run 2 because you sometimes need to cycle out your gearbox by using a second one, but I don't see it enough that I need to run 2. It basically allows you to send a monster from your hand or on the field to summon a level 10 Earth Machine from your graveyard, so usually a train. And if you have like 1 train on the field and 1 in the graveyard, you can often just make Super Dora pass, which is pretty strong. So that's our link lineup. Next off, we have 1 more link monster, sorry, I forgot. And that goes up to Platinum Gadget. Platinum Gadget's also pretty important. Usually when you'll add off of Gear Gigant, the Harvester, and if you have a train as extension, you can special summon the train. And you can use your Gigant plus the train to make Platinum Gadget, and then special summon the Harvester. And then the Harvester will add the Brutal Dozer. Then you can go through your whole line, and when you finally get to your River Stormer line, you can actually tribute the Platinum Gadget with your River Stormer to get it off the field, which is pretty cool. The second effect doesn't do anything. We're not playing gadgets in the deck, so it's just a way to summon out a machine. Now we're going to get off into the XZs, or XZ? XYZ? I think it's XZs. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be playing 1 Gear Gigant, we're going to be playing 1 River Stormer, then we're going to go off into the train package, which is going to be the 1 Lieb, we're going to be playing the 1 Gustav Max, and the 1 Super Dora. Then we're going to be playing 1 Earth Slicer, 1 Ding, and then 1 Zeus. I like this lineup of XZ monsters, for example. I'll spread it out so you guys can see it better. It's pretty good. Gear Gigant is necessary, so is the River Stormer. The trains are very useful for OTK potential, and then you can play the Earth Slicer, Ding, and the Zeus. You can hard make Zeus with your Infinitracks because a Harvester plus any train is equal to Zeus because it's 2 level 12 monsters, which can be pretty useful in certain situations. We're one of the few decks that can actually hard make Zeus, which is pretty cool. The Ding doesn't really come up that much, in my opinion. Ding only comes up if you have a, like... It comes up more often now. If you have a Anchor Drill plus a Moon Clasp or an Anchor Drill plus a Gear Frame, you can make Ding because you can turn both their levels to 8. And if you have Anchor Drill plus Railroad Stampede, you can do the same thing. Unfortunately, I I don't see stuff coming up that much because we're not running like level 8s in the deck. We just have to modulate the levels. We can make most XDs in the deck, you just can't really hard make them without modulating, which is card effects, which kind of hurts if they like negate all your stuff through skill drain. But by that point, you're just playing Train Beatdown, which is pretty good. Then you have basically the Earth Slicer. Earth Slicer can be made off of the Infinitracks also, but it can also be made off of the Railroad Stampede plus the Machina Metal Cruncher by modulating the levels to be 9, which is pretty cool. Earth Slicer also allows us just to be able to go into it because it's an Earth Machine, and we Earth Machine lock ourselves if we go to Brutal Dozer. The other consideration that I was running was taking out the Ding and running one Blathnir. The only issue with Blathnir is the fact that it's wind, and because it's wind, you're not guaranteed to basically be able to get into it if you have to use your Brutal Dozer line. So that's why I'm running the Earth Slicer instead of Blathnir. You can side the Blathnir if you want to be able to have like non-targeting banishing, which is pretty cool. It gets over most things, but I don't see it coming up right now. Because most of the time, if you really need to get over something, you can beat over it by basically using your Super Dora plus the going into like Lieb, for example. Because Lieb is basically your boss monster for the deck because it's 6k and it can attack most monsters on the field. And also you can use your Goliath to stack onto the Lieb so that they can't destroy your Lieb anymore, which is crazy. And then you have your River Stormer for your Infinitrack combo, and you have your Giga for the combo as well. But yeah, that's the whole extra deck. The deck's pretty budget friendly. Zeus is kind of going up a little bit in price. I think it's like 15 or 16, but the most expensive cards in the deck, I believe, are like the Ding, the Zeus, the, not the Trencher, but the Harvesters. But overall, I think the deck is pretty good. I think it's only around like maybe like $100, $150, which is kind of crazy for how good the deck is, especially with Based being worth like $1,200 and you can still beat that deck, or Sword Soul Tenyi, which is like $600 or $700. But besides that, let's go into some side deck considerations, or not side deck, but you can swap out. So we're running 9 hand traps. We're running the triple Ghost Ogre, we're running the triple Ash, we're running the triple Imperm. Let's say that you don't want to run the hand traps and you want to run more like board breaking stuff, so you want to be a going second deck. I'm not a big fan of going second at the moment because you just have too many interruptions that you have to go through. But for that, you can basically run, well, this is my lineup on the side. You can run triple Raigeki. Raigeki helps bait out a lot of things. If they're playing a deck that has no like spell or trap negates, Raigeki just destroys them. But like, it really ruins their day. Other than that, you can also run triple Dark Ruler. Dark Ruler is not super expensive right now, I don't think. The common's like $8, which is a lot cheaper than Ash, and like these together is like basically cheaper than like, I think like 1 Ash, or no, like 2 Ashes. And then the other consideration that I thought of was running the, where is it? Running a Nether Super Express Bullet Train and a Nether Dara Crane, because they're really good for extension if you really need to play through an opponent's hand. It's better to see a train than not. And then I was thinking maybe one more Metal Cruncher. You could probably sub this Metal Cruncher honestly out for like a Nether Revolving Switchyard. Revolving Switch is pretty good in this deck. I believe I have it right here. No, I don't. But yeah, you could sub it out for another Revolving Switchyard to have 3 copies of the Train Field spell, and then you could have 2 of the train, like 4 of the trains in your deck, and you're basically seeing like a train most of the time. That's like basic. You basically have 5 copies of each train, which is pretty good. But I would probably side into these if you don't want to play the hand trap lineup, because you just want to have board breaking potential. Also, what you could do, I don't know, I think it would be funny, is take out, instead of playing these 3, you could play 3 Dark Hole or something. If you play 3 Dark Hole, 3 Raigeki, 3 Dark Ruler, most of the time you'd bait out with the Raigeki, and then you would just go like Dark Hole, and then they would be like, well, I don't have any negates left for that, and then you wipe their field, which is pretty funny. Because if you make them below their Barone negate, then they can't do anything. But yeah, that's my deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's move off a little bit into combos. I want to show you some cool things that this deck can do. So we're going to start off our hand with, let's just say that we have a Gear Frame plus a Train, which is going to be Dora Crane. This is actually full combo for the deck. I'll show you the combo really quickly. So we're gonna start off, and mind you, I'm really sorry if I take a minute to go through the deck, because everything's now in order, so it's gonna take a second. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna normal summon the Gear Frame. Off of Gear Frame, you're going to add the Clasp. And then when you add the Clasp, you'll be able to special summon it and then dump a Machina monster from your deck to your graveyard. So from here, it really doesn't matter what you're gonna dump. If you wanna have going second, like if you wanna have a third turn OTK, what you could do is you can dump Ruin Force right now. But if you realize that they might have Nib or something, I would suggest sending Fortress instead to have a like follow-up. Because then you can bring out the Fortress by dumping stuff from your hand and try to go into Earth Machine combos, go into Double Head Anger Knuckle, and just try doing whatever you can. But for right now, we're gonna say that they don't have Nib, and we're just gonna go into our, like, set up the OTK for next turn. So we're gonna have the Dump the Ruin Force. From here, we're gonna be able to XZ into a Gear Gigant. The Gear Gigant is we're gonna detach the Gear Frame. And off of Gigant, we're going to be adding where is it? We're gonna be adding the Harvester. Now we have Harvester and Dora Crane in hand. I forgot to mention, because we had Dora Crane in hand, when we summoned the Gigant, we were supposed to special summon the Dora Crane, because it only can special when an Earth Machine is special. So now that we have these two monsters on the field, what we can do is we can go off into a Platinum Gadget. So we're gonna link these two off for Platinum Gadget, and then we're gonna activate Platinum Gadget's effect on the field to be able to special the Harvester. Harvester is going to go off, and that's going to give us Brutal Dozer now. And then we basically start going into our basic Earth Machine combos, which is going to be, so we're going to add the Brutal Dozer. Where did I put it? We're going to add Brutal Dozer. From here, we're going to activate Brutal Dozer, tributing the Harvester. Brutal Dozer is going to activate, special summoning a Trencher from deck. Zones don't really matter right now. Then what we're going to do is we're going to XZ into our boy River Stormer. We're going to activate River Stormer's effect, detaching the Trencher, to add a Earth Machine from our deck to our hand. From this, we're actually going to add the Super Express. From here, we're going to do the whole play on how to get our Infinitracks out. So we're going to link this off for Goliath. Then we're going to activate Stormer, tributing off the Platinum Gadget to bring out the Stormer. Then we're going to link off the Stormer one more time, and we're going to go into another Goliath. And then what we can do from here is we can save the Super Express Bullet Train if we know that they have like a Nib, for example. So if they have Nib and they Nib here, that's fine, and it's not going to do anything. And we also have Trencher in Graveyard, which can help us with the follow-up, because when we have Trencher and Express Bullet. So from here, what you can do is you can link off into the Ancient Gear Ballista. From Ballista, sorry if it's not on camera. From Ballista, you're gonna add the box. Then when you add the box, you're gonna be able to add the Tunneler. So now so basically now you have box, Tunneler, and Express in hand. Then you're going to activate Tunneler. You're going to tribute off the Ballista. Well, right here is where you could do certain things here. So from here, you could activate Trencher if you really wanted to. You could banish the Trencher to bring out like Harvester again if you wanted to. Then what you can do is activate Tunneler to tribute the Harvester. Then you could link off into your last Goliath. And then from here, you can link off these two monsters into Double-Headed Anger Knuckle. Now, since we have a train left on the field here, what we can do is we can basically we have the Earth Machine, we can special the Super Express Bullet, because I usually want to save it to the end of my combo in case I try doing anything. Then what you can do is you can activate Tunneler in the graveyard by banishing it. You can shuffle the Goliath, the Ancient Gear Ballista, another Goliath, and then usually I would shuffle something like the Gear Gigant so that I can have like follow-up if I want to search again. off of the Machina stuff. And then you would shuffle all 5 of these into the extra. You don't need to shuffle your deck because of the fact that you're only going into the extra, basically. And then you draw 2. So we're going to say that these are 2 cards that we just drew. Then from here, you can activate Anger Knuckle, tossing the Gearbox. And then you can bring out your Dora. From the Dora, now you can just go into a Super Dora. And then what I'd probably do here is I would activate Super Dora, detaching the Express to target itself. We're doing that so we can get the Express in graveyard to have some extra stuff in the hand. Mind you, we only started with 2 cards, so if, in all honesty, if it was just 2 cards that we had used and we had 3 cards left in hand, we'd end off with 5 cards right now left in hand. And then on end phase, you can activate Super Express Bullet, and you could add back, like, it really doesn't matter. Probably what I would add back is Gear Frame. So you'd add Gear Frame to hand. And off of this, you basically end it off on a unaffected monster, Anger Knuckle, which is going to bring back like Express every turn to keep plussing, and then you end off with 6 cards in hand, which could be a bunch of hand traps or whatnot. It's pretty strong, you get a lot of card advantage, and in addition, one of my favorite things about the way that this deck plays now using the Machina engine is the fact that, like, let's say next turn I go into Super Express. So I bring out Super Express by dumping like a monster or something. Then what you can do is, like, if this goes off the field and, like, let's say that you're left with this, on the end phase you can actually add the Unclasp to hand. And Unclasp doesn't have to be added to hand from the deck. It can actually just be added to the hand from the graveyard, and it will trigger where it can special summon itself now and then dump another Machina. So what you can do is you can actually dump Citadel or you can dump Fortress to have like follow-up, and it's pretty cool that Unclasp can actually be triggered off of your Super Express. And it really helps with like the combos, because then next turn what you can just do is just normal summon Gear Frame, add like Metal Cruncher or something, and then just go into Gear again and basically go back into your more Infinitrack combos and just OTK for game. But yeah, that's like that's the basic combo line. You can do the same thing if you just open a Harvester. You can just normal summon Harvester, Tribute Harvester with the Brutal Dozer that you add, and just go into the same combo lines. Or you could just do it if you open Heavy Forward and just go straight for Brutal Dozer add. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile, and I hope you guys enjoyed the combo section. And I'll see you guys next time.